We go. Hello, and I'm Andres Soto with Relocator Portugal. And once again, we're back here with Rosario Vital, CEO and founder of Relocator Portugal, talking about what are the things needed and how do you go about doing them if you want to relocate to Portugal and start your new life in the Portuguese way. And so welcome once again, Rosario.
Hi, Andres. Thank you so much again for being here with me today. It's really a pleasure and an
Always,
honor.
always a pleasure. And we met because you helped us to relocate to Portugal, and we were retirees, newly retired. And so we used the D7 visa, and you helped us with that process and many other things along the way. But today, let's talk about the different types of folks who are moving to Portugal and the kind of visas that they need to have in order to do that. And, we know that you can help people with all these different types of visas. So give us a rundown on the kind of people that are moving to Portugal and the visas that they'll need.
All right. Well, I would say that probably the D7, the passive recurring income visa, uh, that applies for retirees as you, or people that are living on a stable source of passive recurring income, are still probably the biggest percentage of people relocating to Portugal. It's a visa that even though it's meant for those that can prove to live on their own means, um, can still work if they want. And there's people on a D7 either doing some part-time jobs sometimes or in Portugal, or even providing some freelancer work for abroad. But keeping in mind that the main purpose of this visa is for those that can, if they want to, not have to work and use that source of income. The second, probably biggest group of people relocating to Portugal are the digital nomads. Which is the D8 visa. This visa is aimed for those that are still working, either as employees or as contractors to companies abroad, or even on their own, but having a company abroad. It's a visa that allows you are still able to work or be a contractor to Portuguese companies, but you have to show that actually the main core of the visa, it's for people that are providing these services or working for a company abroad. And as long they are able to show a work contract or a service provider contract, and that have been that this contract will go on in the future, and for 2026 they are able to collect a minimum of 3,680 euros per month. They're good, and they can still bring their family, their dependents, their spouse. So it's a very appealing and applies most for younger people, okay,
Mhm.
that are not retirees or are not living on dividends or annuities or rental income. So it's a very popular visa among the people that are relocating to Portugal. Then there's other types of visa that we assist, and that are also very popular, like the entrepreneur visa, the D2. This type of visa, it's aimed for those individuals that want to start a business in Portugal.
Mhm.
And they have to show the government that, all right, we have this company, we set up this business, we have a plan of business here in place that shows that this is a viable company. And there's also people that what they do is, imagine they have a business they own a business abroad and they want to start like a office representation in Portugal.
Mm.
Or other times their company abroad are the only shareholder for the company. They start in Portugal. It allows them also to bring their family with them. And in many cases, what I see is that these individuals that are starting these companies, and I'm focusing mainly on people from the United Kingdom, Canada, and the United States. They are starting to be these business on fields of activity and of business that brings a lot into the country, like in science, in consulting for very specific niche of investment areas, and most of them have been able to successfully apply for the NHR, the non-habitual resident regiment version 2. So it's also a very popular visa, not as much as the D7 and the D8, but a very viable solution for those that want to carry on their professional activity as entrepreneurs. We have also people that have applied for the Golden Visa. It's the major advantage for the Golden Visa. It's for those individuals that are still young or are still tied up with their home country, that cannot really relocate immediately, but they want to make sure that as soon as they can, they have their place in Portugal secured. So there's different routes for the Golden Visa, like the cultural, the donation, the entrepreneur. Probably the most popular would be the Golden Visa through investment on a fund, and as long as you pick up the right fund for you that we can guide you to, and apply a minimum, invest a minimum of 500,000, you can apply for the Golden Visa for you, for your family as dependents, and have a little commitment in terms of minimum stay in Portugal. As long as you come to Portugal for 8 consecutive days or 12 non-consecutive days per year, you are able to keep that residency status, and later be able to apply for a permanent residence permit, or even for citizenship.
So
Then there's also
that's what you mean when you say non-habitual resident. Someone who, because of their circumstances, doesn't stay there relatively permanently, but they live somewhere else, but they still have this investment in Portugal and are committed to at some point maybe moving there or and living there, or something like that, the NHR.
Well, the NHI, it's like a tax scheme, and actually doesn't apply for the Golden Visa applicants. It's only for D8 or D2, the digital nomad visa or the entrepreneur visa, because it's a tax scheme. With the Golden Visa, you are not supposed to be living in Portugal for most of your time. So we know that you will not carry on any activity that will justify to have a special tax regime, because you are bringing something extra for the country in terms of a business activity. So the NHR doesn't apply for the Golden Visa. The Golden Visa applicants are those individuals that want to secure their place in Portugal, let's say this way, but cannot commit to living most of the time in Portugal. So that's why, it would not really make much sense to have that tax scheme benefit for those. There's also other types of visa, like the student visa. that now allows, and has become very clear with this. You imagine you are someone that comes to Portugal to study, and at some point you realize, hey, I love it here. I want to get a job here. I want to live here. So you can easily switch for a student visa to a work visa and work from within Portugal, or even start a business on your own in Portugal. So this is a visa that I've been seeing lately that has been also used as a route for those that cannot meet the requirements for the D7, the passive recurring income visa holders, or the D8 digital nomad visas, to come to the country and start a new chapter in their life. They come as a student and then they move on for a different type of visa that will be suitable for them. For last, there's also this work visa for those that want to come to Portugal and work for a Portuguese company. You will need to have a work contract already signed. It cannot have started yet because you can only come to Portugal and work under the work visa if you have a permit for that, right? But you can have a contract already signed with a company to start in the upcoming months, or even a promise of work. A contract is called a promissory contract for work with a certain company. And this is a type of a visa that allows those that are still, imagine, at work age, cannot apply for a D7, doesn't have a job that pay that minimum of 3,680 euros per month, and want to move to Portugal and have to keep working to live on. So it's also another very popular visa. This would be probably the most. There are others. There's one that it's lacking regulation, which is for very high qualified employees. We are in a stage of starting a new version of that visa. So I'm not going over that one right now. I would say that probably these are the most common, most popular, most used type of visas for those that want to move to Portugal and live here in this beautiful country.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you for covering all that. And for people who are like binational, US and Portuguese, um, citizenship, or, the children of people who have emigrated from Portugal to other countries, do they have to go through any kind of special process? I guess if they have dual passports, they don't, but
Yeah.
people who are the children of Portuguese citizens, is there any special process they have to go through?
Well, for those individuals, they have to apply for citizenship through ancestry. We assist a lot of Portuguese immigrants that moved abroad, namely on the 70s, 80s, 90s, and this early century. For those second generation Portuguese immigrants, for them to move to Portugal, they can apply for family reunification if they are still minors or by any means dependents of the Portuguese citizen, and that is a process that you have applied from within the country and which we assist as well. Or they will have to apply for citizenship through ancestry and get a Portuguese passport and then move to Portugal without having to move with their parent. So there's probably the two options for those we have assisted. For you to have an idea, about 10 years ago, uh, the citizenship process was taking about 4 to 6 months, and there were very few applicants, even among the Portuguese population living abroad, for their descendants. Starting about 4 years ago, the services started seeing an increase up to the 3,000 per day applicants.
Wow.
And we see now that there's a lot of second generation Portuguese immigrants that are trying to get their Portuguese passport. There's also, for those that are Portuguese and immigrated in the past, there's also this program from the government to give them benefits to come back to Portugal, and which are interesting. I know of people that got to the age of retirement and were able to get those benefits. So they're paying less taxes. They have a lot of the support from the government to allow them out, to run a few errands that they are, our Portugal work, our public services work, because after being for so long abroad, they lost a bit track of how things are working right now.
Wow, that sounds great. Well, thank you once again so much, Rosario, for this latest chapter. And we will have other chapters available on the Relocator Portugal YouTube page. And on that YouTube page, you can find the contact information in the header. And so for those of you who want to be able to follow up and take advantage of one of these visa projects, one of these visa programs, and reach out to Relocator Portugal and Rosario and her team, please check on that YouTube page, subscribe and like the page, and look forward to our next chapter together, Rosario.
Thank you so much, Andres. I'm very thrilled to go over the next program, our next YouTube, because, I think it will be of much interest for many people.
Okay. Well, muito obrigado. Thank you very much. And ciao.
Muito obrigada, André. Até a próxima.
Até
Muito obrigada. Por resto dia.
Okay. Ciao.